Presti. That was my co-producer, Robert Otey. He's ran the website Free Energy and Free Thinking, which is feandft.com for many years. His father was head of Sandias Nuclear Laboratory in California, and he endearingly referred to him as Darth Vader for a long time, but literally never found agreement, never found any support from his father with his own work and studies of such gentlemen as Walter Russell, Nikola Tesla, T.H. Murray, the heart scientists, if you will, not the corporately owned ones. I'm going to briefly stress on the philosophic principles of Russellian science. Consciousness is currently defined as the quality or state of being aware, especially of something within oneself, state or fact of being, concern for some social or political cause. Currently in our world of science, there is very little admission that there even is consciousness, that it's the basic differences between Russellian science and philosophy, between Russellian science and the science of empiricism, is that the empirical scientists believe that mind is an effect. It's an effect of matter, and that it's completely within the brain itself. Whereas the great mystics, the common thread between all mystics throughout time immemorial, is that consciousness is the cause of materialdom. The Russell definition. They left us no actual definition book. I've read every single piece of work they have. Robert has read just about every single piece of work. We spent the first unit we did, called Defining a New Cosmology, for probably 2 months prior to publishing it on the internet, just coming up with what the definitions would be. We scoured book after book. There's changes between the universal one and the final distillation of the science, which is atomic suicide, which I recommend you start at the last book and then work your way backwards. That way you'll know in advance which changes occur. Consciousness is the spiritual light of mind, or the source of all seeming motion and energy that exists in stillness and silence. The universal one, God, creator, etc., Wankan, Tanka, Allah, whatever you'd like to call it, is holy mind and simulates all idea by dividing stillness to create the illusion of motion where no motion is. All motion extends from and returns to the same source. We all extend and return to the very same source. This is the undivided white magnetic light of mind. There's a scene in one of our Unit 16, this Creator's still white magnetic light. The reason it's white is because it's undivided. The flash of illumination that has been described for thousands of years by maybe 40 people total in history is of a white light. The entrance into something beyond the senses itself, where you become holy mind, severed from the body to experience that which is universal. This was Russell's picture of the one white light of mind, which is the real universe of knowing mind at rest. Notice it's dark to our senses. He shows space as being the rest stage, the rest state of the light of mind itself. As it is dark to our senses, when this light divides, we get the spectrum body of lights, the unreal motion picture universe of thinking mind in action. We had the idea to invert galaxy pictures to demonstrate how the white light of mind is omnipresent. All the dots you see are galaxies. All these are disturbances in that white light. This is a beautiful picture to contemplate how omnipresent the mind of God really is. Even in this room, there's this white magnetic light that you cannot see with your sensed eyes, but you can know it with your inner eyes. As Walter said, the main difference between the genius, the cosmic illuminate, and those people who do not yet know what cosmic illumination is that one believes themselves to be their body, the other knows that they are holy mind. And a genius looks inwardly toward his soul with his inward looking eyes and his inward listening ears as opposed to outwardly toward his senses. Black elk. The first piece, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers. And when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells Wankantanka, and this center is really everywhere. It is within each of us. Hinduism, the oldest religion on the earth. From Brahmins sprang Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the three aspects of God, the cycles of birth and death and rebirth, possibly the oldest organized religion. Extended Buddhism from Hinduism, preceded Christianity by 500 years, cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. At the core of all these religions is a great mystic. Abrahamic religions, which later came, a trinity trivided. Now, I made up the word trivided because it was hard to say divided when there are more than two. So I find that if the word's not a word in the English language, I'll simply make one up, sort of like crevolution. They told me I could either believe in God or evolution in high school, so I chose them both and call it crevolution. They're monotheistic, perpetual war-making machines. Each claims to be God's chosen way, irregardless of the other. There's very little compassion between the two, as we can see the act of non-compassion playing out in the Middle East today. Each is incapable of unity with one another at this current time, but doesn't mean it can't be in the future if men can come to the awareness that, as Lao said, the factual interpretation of the golden rule is what you do to another person, you do to yourself. That's a universal truth, not a personal one. This is religion then, 3,000-4,000 years ago, and now. Not much difference, is there? We haven't come very far in thousands of years. Freemasonry, perhaps a very old ideal, a brotherhood, a good intention, views all gods as the same supreme being. In the Masonic Bible, in the first page, it gives you 62 names of God, but they don't see any difference between any of them. Interesting, why don't they let us all know that? Seeks to unify man as a brotherhood regardless of race or creed, is out of balance because of the lack of feminine equality. This is something Lao taught me that I could not learn from anyone else. I've never heard a man tell me that most of men's ills are created by the lack of feminine leadership. There should, as Lao said in her book, God Will Work With You But Not For You, presidential positions, CEOs, those positions of the greatest decision-making importance should be held by a man and a woman. For this is how God manifests. It's a bipolar, bisexed universe. God does not manifest in simply man alone. He manifests in both aspects. And when those two aspects can become one and begin to make balanced decisions together as one whole, our world will transform. How can it not? I don't think mothers of the world would be so quick to send their sons off to war. Please save your questions for the end. Thank you. The Road to Hell. Terence McKenna, a favorite author of mine prior to discovering Walter Russell, and he wrote, if you charge off with some political agenda that is not informed by clarity, you're going to end up with business as usual. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, but it is not paved with clarity. Hell is not anything other than man's own creation. We live in a paradise, an absolute gorgeous paradise. The hardest thing for man to accept is that he's responsible. He hurts himself and then he calls it sin and evil, as Walter and Lao said repeatedly. So that brings us to transcendence. How do we transcend that which is profane? In alchemy, the sacred marriage of the opposites, the man and woman perspective, the sun and moon, produces the sacred offspring. That offspring is the unification of the left and right polarities within your own self, the unity of the self, of the soul, to express that which is your divine purpose. Walter Russell is one illuminate out of 40 or so, as Richard Murray Spuke wrote in his Cosmic Consciousness book. This was actually, he didn't include Walter because he wrote it before Walter, but they included it on their list of books that one should read to acquire greater awareness of what cosmic consciousness is and how it's on everyone's doorstep. We need but reach out for it. The Creator centers all motion. Again, this is a very important thing to realize, that within the center of your very self, this is your equator. You have a line that divides you into two hemispheres. That line is even manifested in the teeth. I'm lucky to have mine, I guess. But your belly button, your throat, the septum on your nose. There is a center inside every motion. The Creator centers all motion. There's no motion that exists in this world that is not centered by the Creator. Simultaneously, the Creator bounds all motion in its planes of invisible curvature. The cube, expanded, is the sphere. The sphere is the cube compressed, and the cube is the sphere expanded. So when the cube compresses in one of its gyroscopic motions, it becomes the sphere. When the sphere expands, it becomes the cube. And the interchanges are some just a cycle per second maybe, and others trillions upon trillions per second. Some of the great artists of our time, Da Vinci, the painting of man, the divine man, his proportions, the center. All bodies have a still center. Here's your chakra system. What is the center chakra? Anybody? Center chakra of the body. Heart. Interesting, huh? The heart is the manifestation of the Creator's twin opposing vortices. The blood implodes. It is not a pump. It implodes to produce the motion. Out of the fulcrum emerges motion. Here's our fulcrum. God is forever still in the stillness and the silence. When it divides, you have creation. Anything that's in motion is an illusion, but that which is not an illusion is that which is perpetual, which is stillness. It is the prime condition. Because all bodies, even planets, as they're born from the sun, and they grow bigger and bigger as they get farther and farther away, just like children, anything in nature, it leaves the home eventually and has children of its own. Mercury one day will have a family. Jupiter has 15 or so children, Saturn even more. They expand until the rings give off and return back to the stillness from which they come. All motion does this. Sometimes it takes a trillion years for something to do it. Perhaps a sun. It's on the average 80 years for mankind. We will return to the stillness. And in that stillness is the heaven that we all stem from. The fields of motion around us, our energy source is the stillness, the fulcrum for both man and woman. Man's power doesn't come, as Walter said, from the lever itself. The power is in the fulcrum, in that which doesn't move. There is no energy in matter. Therefore, quantum physics is an impossibility. It's not an opinion. How could there be energy in matter? So with the Large Hadron Collider and the Higgs boson particle, which Robert endearingly refers to as the Higgs boson particle, they will not find what they're looking for. They're on their way to stillness, but they're still looking for a particle that causes the energy, or that is the cause. Russell said to do so, one might as well cast nets into the ocean to search for oxygen. Rest from motion comes by way of a union of seeming opposites. It is in this union where life continues, where it's repeated. This is the divine. This is the two sexes becoming one. And that's where the child emerges. That's where God's love is magnetically repeated. The French call the orgasm the little death. And I can only imagine that's because the man rolls over and goes to sleep afterwards. But there is something divine about the orgasm. Out of this union of sexed opposites emerges that life, that continuity of the human race itself. This is the trinity of mankind: the Father, the Mother, and the child. Is it any wonder why there's a war on the family in this world? And this is the trinity of the Creator, the seeming two. Always remember that in this seeming motion of two polarities, what is that dual polarity? What are those two polarities surrounded by? A circle. So really you're seeing one thing here, not two. Thinking and action. Our knowing centers. Our knowing is the center of our thinking. Our critical thought, left brain. Imaginative, resourcefulness, right brain. The seesaw is the ever-moving motion illusion. Democrat, Republican, up, down, left, right. Any polarity you can think of. That's the moving illusion. But if you can center yourself and get off of the seesaw, I also liken it to, you hear the term objectivity and subjectivity. Well, I created a new word because there wasn't one for it. I call it nojectivity. To be nojective is to be in the fulcrum of knowing and neither ride the subjective or objective seesaw. To neither be Republican, Democrat, for or against, simply the quality of being itself as an emergent factor in your own self, as an extension of this universal one. Our lack of knowing creates an imbalance on the seesaw, as Robert masterfully demonstrated in that video, which for even me was almost hard to watch. It's hard to contemplate that our nature can be so destructive. It really is. But to shun our responsibility at a critical time like this, for the hope that we might have somebody else do it, the aliens might help us, or some being from some dimension elsewhere than here, we have this power in ourselves. I've always desired that mankind could do this for himself, that we're strong enough as a species on this planet to do this for ourselves. Think of how much better we'd feel. Think of when we looked in each other's eyes and our children, we didn't have to lock our doors anymore, could play together in the streets and people would not drive fast through a neighborhood knowing that this happy, beautiful world is there, where people had no fear of one another, could embrace each other in brotherly and sisterly love. This is not utopia. This is where we must go. The other is toward the grave. There's no other hope for us but to do this for ourselves. It'd be nice if the aliens landed and arrested all the bad people and said, here's your world back, but I don't think that's going to happen. Don't count on it. I think we can do this for ourselves. And to tell you the truth, if we did, think of the feeling that we'd have. We did this. We turned our world around by ourselves. We didn't need the help of the Pleiadians or the Andromeda galaxy ship people or even beings in the earth. We did this for ourselves, and I think it's in our power, and every one of us has the potential to witness our ability to change this world through our own purposeful involvement. Walter and Lao said this was a purposeful universe. God did not accidentally create this universe. He, she, it, whatever you'd like to call it, is the unification, the undivided, divided itself in balanced perfection. Balance is the one law. If you need 2 words, rhythmic balanced. If you need 3, Russell said, rhythmic balanced interchange. What is not in balance will topple. That's natural law, universal law. Man is in such violation of that, especially the 0.0000026% of the people that are considered the elite. It's not even 1%. It's much smaller. Violence is not the answer. Love is the answer. We multiply love, we get more love. If we multiply war, we get more war. We multiply understanding, we get more understanding. We multiply discernment, we get more discernment. We get what we multiply. We get what we think. We are what we think. All of nature seeks balance. It is balance that creates nature. It is balance that is nature. When you're alone in nature, you cannot have naught but balance. That alone time in nature, Russell stressed over and over, was his greatest school. He said, nature is the only teacher, there need be no other. I believe that. I've found such a connection with nature in my time on this planet that it's literally saved me. It's taught me more than I could ever learn from any man. Russell also said, nature is a jealous God, for she will not speak to you unless you are completely alone with her. Interesting. Mankind repeatedly violates the one law of balance. Again, we hurt ourselves and we call it sin and evil. We threaten ourselves because of a few that want it all. We can either go along with the few or we can blaze our own way, use our own inner connection to the still magnetic light to manifest the kind of lives we want. And I think it's within every one of us to be able to do that multiple times over. Russell said when a man and woman work knowingly with the Creator, he can multiply his power by the direct ratio of the cube. So as opposed to just having 8 times power by yourself, you can actually have 64 times the power with a balanced mate. So balanced matehood and understanding of the sex division as a principle of nature and the real natural science of this universe is imperative. Our industry, obviously out of balance. We have the fat cats. Why is mankind out of balance? Many have said the 7 deadly sins. That's a good starting place. Those things in us which men multiply and other men worship. They work for other men who multiply those things. Time to maybe think about getting a new job for all of us. One at least that we do that is in line with universal law as opposed to it. Industry is changing. People have the open mind and the capacity to realize their dreams and put them into motion. Walter said, if you want something, simply take the first step to get there and God will work with you to see you achieve it. But you must balance your thinking with action. The end result of greed is always the same. How should mankind balance himself? Well, the 7 heavenly virtues are a great place to start. Brings us to the heart of the Creator. Russell knew firsthand by direct experience the heart of the Creator. I had a 3-day mini, stress the word mini illumination, where I experienced the light for 3 days. I saw it was like just a constant haze around me, but the haze wasn't in the room. It was in my mind, but it was the light. I wrote down some inspired words, many of which are on the table out there. You can read them freely if you wish. But it's through this very heart, which is in our heart itself. We have the same heart. It's all the same thing. It comes from the same place and returns to it. These 2 folks knew that, and they demonstrated it together. They worked knowingly with God, multiplied their power. The words are clear. It tells us just how to do this. And it says most of all that we can do it, that it's within the grasp of every human. All they need do is but desire it. And the heart of the Creator is you. There is only one. The one law of this universe is balance. The one matter substance is light. The one force is electricity. The one cause is desire. The one emotion which has no opposite is ecstasy. The one principle is love. The one thinker is the Creator. The one thought is the Creator's imagination. The one song is the music of the spheres or the music or the universal symphony. The one time is now, and it's happening everywhere at once throughout the entire universe. The one Savior is you. I and my Father are one. And when you can say that, you'll understand. The one is the other. The one in you is the one in me, is the one in you, is the one in them. It's only a simple matter of knowing it. Find the one in yourself, know the one in the all. Thank you very much. Thank you. She's got it. I'll take some questions if you guys like. Lori can run the mic around. Just raise your hand and she'll deliver the mic to you. That way the people on the webcast can hear it.
You mentioned corporate leaders needing a man and a woman, and I just wondered if you could comment on the concept of each of us having a masculine and feminine aspect, and that a lot of the great leaders, I think, have the feminine side developed, and some women have too much masculine, and some, just comment on that.
Sure.
Thanks.
Well, I'll take to Leo's comments about how governments and organizations should be headed by men and women. It's interesting, the University of Science and Philosophy has a board. It's headed by a president. Leo would have really liked to have it headed by a man and woman president, but unfortunately Virginia state law is such that a position of president may only be occupied by one person. Perhaps in the next 25 years, through some concerted effort, we can get that law changed. Maybe we could do it in Virginia first. Be the first state to allow C5103 nonprofits to have a man and a woman as a president, and perhaps all the other positions too. But within the self are the aspects. I studied alchemy for a while, and all the pictures in alchemy that depicted sun and moon, I came to a realization that it seemed to be that was an internal kind of reflection, not necessarily that it's the sun and moon uniting to form the child and the vesica, but the unification of the polarities of our own selves. We're taught in this corporate world that we have to be completely left-brained. It's all about intellect and all about rationale, all about empirical observation and reductionism, where the feminine qualities are creative. They're the imagination, those things that the school system puts kids on drugs for looking out the window. Well, why do kids look out the window? It's natural. How many kids looked out the window when they were in grade school? Just stared out the window, couldn't pay attention to the blackboard. That's a symptom not in ADD. I've got ADD, ADHD, I've got DVD, VHS, but I've cured myself of my cassette syndrome, so I'm getting better. But, they label these kids as and Walter and Lao knew it too. They put these kids on these imagination-killing drugs. If you have children and you've been asked to put your kids on any kind of Rellian, get them off right away. Nurture that creative side of them. They need it. They really do. It's the creative side that brings forth new ideas. And in times like this, necessity is the mother of all inventions. So a good healthy balance of the two hemispheres of oneself, I think, is a great way to proceed to bring more solution and less disaster. So hopefully that kind of answered it a little bit. Yes? TheSecretOfLight.com.
So the movie you watched at the beginning, is that available?
The movie at the beginning, that will be available online. I don't have a link for it at the moment, but I do have one little extra thing I wanted to show after the Q&A, if you'd all oblige me. It's 4 minutes long. But
What was the name of the movie? I'm sorry.
it was called Science, but it's just it was finished today and rushed to the production table. It was done, a young friend of ours by the name of Gareth Graff stayed up 48 hours in a row trying to finish this thing in an effort to get it here. Robert couldn't be here, unfortunately. He's ironically caring for 12 Arabian stallions, which Russell also had 12 at one time, which I find ironic. But he couldn't find anyone to take over he's a master gardener and cares for the horses and everything. So. I will be copying that on the website, and also the DVDs of this presentation will be available shortly too as well. So, are there any more questions? Yes? I can't, hold on one second, so the people online can hear you.
In the video up there was a discussion on New Age thought,
Uh-huh.
on the concept of channeling.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought on that? Because in some circles, some forms of channeling is just connecting with your higher self and the global universal thought and being able to pull those thoughts and ideas into our reality and sharing that. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on channeling?
Personally, I agree with Walter and Lao that they like the term meta-science instead of metaphysics. And I think the experience Robert and I had while in Colorado with a group of channeling crowd, we found that it was kind of an unpleasant situation. I wouldn't say that channeling yourself, your higher self, is necessarily even channeling as much as it is incorporating that which you truly are into your daily experience. It's the channelers that, for instance, like, I don't want to really name names myself, but folks who tell you things like, if you pay me more money, I'll give you more answers, you know. We've met several channelers and we've asked them, why don't you channel Russell and help us figure out what he meant by all the inert gases? So one practically serves, the other serves to drain your wallet, basically. So just use discernment. You know, I'm not saying that you shouldn't explore. If you want to explore and look at those things, that's your prerogative. But I think it's, as science is looking for the God particle, which is carbon, actually, they're trying to find it in motion, but it's not. It's in stillness. They'll get there eventually, but.
The objection in the video wasn't to the person itself being able to channel and communicate with spiritual aspect, but it was more along the commercial aspect of it.
Right, it's commercialism of any form. You know, we've got to stop putting dollar signs on this planet and on each other. That's the New Age movement, I call it, instead of the New Age. We need a New Age movement where it's about us and our personal development. So.
Sorry, I just wanted to be clear on the objection to that. It was the commercial side, not the actual concept of channeling.
Beyond commercial. I saw it go beyond commercial, and thank you.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, why have a middleman?
Yeah.
As an Illuminate says, and all Illuminates have said who've started all the religions, they say there is naught but you and the source. Why have anyone between you and the source? You know, it's just like, you know, you can't get to God unless you go through a priest or something. You know, I think it's like, you know, why give our power away? It's time we take it back, because it's been disastrous what we've seen as far as giving our power away to externalities. But I think I would just, you know, approach it from your heart. Think with your heart, and I think you'll find out the same things that such illuminates have, who have given us the beauty of this universe to comprehend in such a way, to see it through the language of light itself. And finally, is that the last question? I'll give one more. Sure. 1 second.
God says, I am the one. So my last sentence was, I am one. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you. And lastly but not least, Lori, would you run that video for me that's back there? Lastly but not least, prior to this video, which shows a never-before-seen Russellian demonstration of the cubic wave field model. 4 minutes and 10 seconds. This is a cube that's never before been seen. Several cubes, actually. It has been seen, actually, but not by the majority of people on the planet. Before you hit the play button, however, you can X that out and just get ready to, when you hit play, go to the large, there you go. Stand by, pause it, please. Before this video starts, I really have to do this. I want to thank my beloved, because without her, none of this would be possible. She is my Leo. She has been my mirror, my balance, and the other half of my heart. Okay, roll. Sorry, thanks. A little more volume. Thank you.
Hats off to Matt Presti. That was really beautiful. Raise your hand if you appreciate that. You're in the room. Yes, absolutely. I'm telling you, that's what we're all about this weekend is the geometry of space, the power of heart, the power of love.